All right, we're here at a setup. We've got a cool little S-curve coming through some trees. And in this scene, we're trying to build a story, build out a scene. So we're going to work our way up from sort of a basic shot, something that you might just go grab if you're shooting a documentary, a promo, you just grab the shot, you leave. No, we don't want to do that. We want to take our time, build an actual scene with several shots. So Will, how are we going to do that?
So the first shot is going to be, like you said, just locked off. We're going to let you guys pass right through. It looks great because they're coming really close to camera. That's awesome. The next shot we're going to do is we're going to punch in a little bit with the lens, not digitally. Like, we want to do it optically because it'll add that shallow depth of field, that really awesome aesthetic. The next shot we're going to do is we're going to slow everything down, frames per second. We're going to shoot at 120 frames per second, remembering to change our shutter.
With a little bit of motion, right? With a little pan.
With a little bit of, oh, that's right. We're going to do some panning. Yeah, you want to add that pan and movement in before we add the frames per second. And then we're going to do a moving shot. So like with my hand, we're going to like come off some foreground, then focus to you guys at a high frame rate, which will add a lot more energy and a lot more like fun and interestingness.
And I think being able to capture all these shots allows whoever's editing the video to have different options in case one looks better than the other, but also to be able to cut between the shots and actually have a more interesting scene to look at. We're also going to sort of flip around and get another shot from a completely different angle of us entering the trail, and we'll see if that sort of adds to the story as well.
And I think when you're looking at them, when you look at the wide shot, when it's just like locked off, you guys are going through, and you compare it to the moving shot of us moving across the foreground, look at the difference between like the energy, the aesthetic professionally, right? Like when you start to add more variables to what your shot looks like, it's not just locked off, it can really add a lot of like, you know, production value.
Yeah, and also with our camera, we've got the ND filter on our lens, which is cutting down the light so that we can open up that f-stop wider, so we have that shallower depth of field. So that's one thing. If you don't have an ND filter, they're not that expensive, and it's a great tool to have if you're shooting out in the middle of the day like this when it's bright and sunny. You just don't have any option to keep that f-stop wide open to get that shallow depth of field. So the ND filter is a great one. This is a variable ND?
Yeah, so this is a variable. I really honestly think that if you're going to advance your videography, if you're going to push yourself into professionalism, when you're outside, you want that shallow depth of field, that aesthetic. You need to shoot at a 2.8. You need to use an ND filter. It's helpful to have a variable one because you can change it depending on your situation. But they do make solid, like, you know, ND3, ND6, ND9s steps. But you could also have a matte box with filters on it. But variable screw-on NDs for your specific lens, super helpful.
And we're also going to have Sam riding with me, just having both of us for the commercials that we're putting together adds to that story, but also just for the shot, I think it's going to make it more interesting to have both of us in the shot. So,
you know, something else that helps too, we're talking about advanced videography, this cage on this camera, huge help. I was able to grab onto this and you can create some movement instead of having to, you know, finagle it. So helpful. Also your flip out screen, super great.
Cool. Well, let's see how it goes.
So here you can see in this first shot, Will just set up on the side. We rode past him. And as always, the first shot is just sort of a test shot. So we ended up getting two of these shots. That was just me going by, and then he reframed just a little bit. He was shooting at 4K, so we would be able to punch in just a little bit, but still not that interesting of a shot. Next, Will did a similar framing, but added a little bit of a pan at the end, and just adding that little bit of motion just to track us going by, I think helps. Although at the end of that shot, that tripod's sitting there, so that's not going to work. Here was another one, another attempt, and this was shot in the higher frames per second at 120. So this is actually 5 times slower than normal speed, or about 5 times. And so here you see he punched in quite a bit. You can see the expressions of our faces just a little bit. The autofocus was actually pretty good on this shot, and it's a nice combination of different elements that he was able to capture, from me going down to the bike that Sam is riding, getting close up, and punching in allowed him to get a decent shot of us riding away there as well, instead of seeing that tripod on the side. So 120 frames definitely smooths it out. Punching in was good. And then finally, here's the shot with him handheld going behind that branch, putting that foreground element. Now, I like the shot. There's definitely some elements that I like about it. It was on autofocus, so it's sort of trying to find focus here and there. And right about there, I am happy that it locks onto focus onto us. And actually having some of that stuff earlier on where it's focusing on the branches is nice to use. Although if I were to do this again, I would lock focus either on the branches and just get that shot with the foreground element in focus, and then also get the same shot locked onto us in the background, and or manually focus where it starts off on the branches and then right around here it racks to us and is a little bit slower, because the autofocus, even though it did a decent job getting onto us, it was a little bit abrupt, and the slow motion helped it a little bit. And there's actually settings depending on your camera. You can adjust how fast autofocus changes from focusing on one thing to the next, and you can actually slow that down. And that might be a setting that when I'm filming this kind of action footage, I might change in the future.
Something that we noticed as soon as we came to this spot, because we're shooting the sun's right in the middle of the sky, and there's trees here, we've got bright sunny spots, and then we have dark shady spots. So you have to make a decision. Are you going to expose for the brighter area of the trail or whatever you're shooting, or are you going to expose for what's in the shadows? And it might take playing around with, testing out the shot. If you are exposing for the shadows, maybe it's going to be completely blown out in the sunlight, and you don't want that. Generally, you don't want to be overexposing your highlights. If you're shooting raw log footage, you can sometimes pull up some of those shadows to have enough information to make it look good, even if you are shooting at a lower exposure, but you generally don't want to overexpose your highlights. Now, with this shot, just walking around it, looking this way up the hill, which you can see now, we're gonna see the bikes coming down right in the sunlight, and we're gonna expose to us coming down in the sunlight. Now, flipping around, we're gonna walk up there, and there's a nice shot where you could kind of see the trail, and you can see the trees. And again, I think we're going to still expose for the sunlight, even though we're going to be in the shadows at the beginning of the shot. We're gonna test it out, we'll see what it looks like, and maybe play around with it, but just another thing to think about. This might also make you think, oh, well, I wanna film maybe later in the day, or when try to shoot on a cloudy day, or some time when the shadows aren't as harsh. That can up your video quality as well.
All right, so here we see the hard work of filming mountain biking sequences. Here is more of that storytelling element. You see Sam and I, this is going to be a shot, just part of the commercial, two buds meeting up to get on a ride together. Will had us do it a couple times. This last one I thought was the best one. And then Will got behind us and he did a couple different shots that can hopefully pair together with us going down that next part, which we filmed previously. I like this one where we both went around him. Now this one is the one where he exposed to us in the shadow, so it's not going to work with us down there on the trail below. Here is where he exposed to us down in the sun, and that one is going to work if we want to use that part of the shot from down there. And here you can see Will running after us in that shot.
Ready? And action.
And that reverse shot, the full thing basically, and having all of these different shots to be able to piece together is going to be awesome for our edit.